Unfortunately, you haven't done a good job in answering my interrogation. Actually, the verse says, take the little ones for yourself. This is chapter 31, verse 18 of Numbers. Take them for yourself. And if you're saying this doesn't imply captivity, if you're saying this does not imply captivity, then you'll be going against all halakhic understandings by the Jewish people who have been interpreting this for decades, in fact, actually millennia. And I will say to you once again, go back to the Jerusalem Talmud. There's two Talmuds, the Babylonian one and the Jerusalem one. Go and see what the rabbis have said in relation to this verse. They clearly understood it to mean captivity. Okay, you don't like this verse. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 2, where it talks about going the way of the Amalekites and don't leave anything alive, and even the donkey, women, children, and even the donkey. And other places it says kill everything. So actually, the injunctions in Numbers chapter 31, verse 18, are a step down, even though they mean captivity for women. They're a step down from what we find in 1 Samuel 15. Because in 1 Samuel 15, we see everybody's genocided and everybody's killed. And once again, we have to bring to the attention of the Christian community that you may say this is the Old Testament and it's something we don't want to associate with. But if you believe that Jesus is inseparable from the Trinity, then you believe that he was the author of the Old Testament, which means that at least at one point in time, he must have ordered Moses to do those genocides and kill those children and kill those animals. This is clear, and this is the understanding of the rabbis, and this is the understanding, quite frankly, of even reformers, theologians like John Calvin, who exegeted the Bible. Look at how people exegeted the Bible away from this pathetic apologism that you're finding here from these people. You'll find that it's a consistent theme, that they understood it in the way of genocide and captivity and slavery. In fact, racial slavery, which he had the audacity to accuse our Prophet of, despite the fact that he's the only man, and Islam is the only religion which categorically forbids racism. And I say that to you, get me one verse of the Bible which has the equivalent of saying racism is wrong. I can get you a hadith straight away. La fadla li Arabiyyin ala ajami. That there's no virtue over an Arab over a non-Arab, or a black man over a white man, and that the best of you are those most in virtue. Get me the equivalent of that in the Bible. We find the opposite in the Bible. Genesis chapter 9, verse number 22, we find the curse of Ham. Noah had 3 sons, and the biblical exegete said the curse of Ham was that he was cursed with black skin, curly hair, and slavery. And you see now, those who justify slavery in the transatlantic slave trade, obviously some use the Bible I will be honest, to attack slavery as well. But for the majority of those who promulgated slavery, use this curse of Ham as a justification. You can't come to me and talk about slavery. You can't come to me and talk about racism. Because the Bible, there is nothing in the Bible that forbids racism. We have Jesus Christ. Is it time?
20 seconds.
20 seconds. We have Jesus Christ in the New Testament. We have Jesus Christ shunning the Gentile woman and calling her of the dogs. This is racism, with all due respect. She's a dog because she's not a Jew. So here we find, my challenge is very clear. One verse of the Bible which categorically rejects slavery, and how do you deal with those verses that I told you in chapter 19 and chapter 9? Yeah.
Muhammad Hijab should get to know the topic first clearly. If you're going to talk about genocide as the Bible advocate, we can get to that later. The point is pretty simple, Muhammad. If you want to listen here, the point is pretty simple. The entire narration of the nation of Israel was about God redeeming a people group who were slaves, oppressed slaves. Redeeming them and giving them liberty is the entire Old Testament, the beginning of the Old Testament. And Exodus chapter 22, verse 21, soon after God brings them out, this is what he says: not to mistreat a stranger or oppress him, because you were strangers in Egypt. The challenge that I had for you is very simple, Muhammad. Find one evidence. Read to me one evidence where you find people who are brought under captivity and made slaves to live with Israel, to be slaves with Israel. You won't be able to find. In contrast, what you will find is that in the Bible, you find God advocate similar law for foreigners and for the nation of Israel. God forbidding kidnapping, i.e. taking a person against his will, whether it against his will and bringing him under captivity. You find people given rights, legal rights given to those who are working in Egypt. Exodus 22-21, not to mistreat a stranger or oppress him. No unfair treatment, no forced marriage. Jesus says there is neither, New Testament says, Galatians 3:28, there is neither Jew nor Greek. There is neither slave nor free. Excuse me, 1 second. There is neither male nor female. So if you go through the Bible, the entire story about the Bible is redemption of slaves and people being made to live as free human beings, only with obligation under God. In contrast, what do you find? In contrast, you find Muhammad.
You are free.
Excuse me. In contrast, you find Muhammad having deep racism. Muhammad thinking 2 black people are equal to 1 Arab slave. Sahih Muslim 10-3901. Sahih al-Bukhari 9-89-256. That black people were raisin heads. Muhammad himself owned black slaves. Sahih Muslim 10-3901. 52334. Al-Tabari talking about black slavery, explaining it as the Africans having come from Ham and therefore ought to be enslaved. Tirmidhi Hadith 38, Muhammad says, when Allah created Adam, he stroked his right shoulder and took out a black race as if they were coals. Then he said to those who were on this right side toward paradise, and I don't care. He said to those who were on his left shoulder towards hell, and I don't care. What you find here is Muhammad saying all black people are destined to go to hell, and he doesn't even care about this. Not just this, Muhammad also considered anyone who is not a Muslim to be like cattle, like pigs, like sheep, cows, camels. And therefore, no wonder you find in Islam very evil treatment of unbelievers, non-Muslims, when they are caught during a war. What happens to them? They are taken, females are taken as sex slaves. Quran, Surah 4, Ayah 3. Surah 4, Ayah 24.
Time finish. We'll get to 4-3 in the next.
Well, you want to know his mic.
All right. So,
Is he with you? Could you please ask him not to disturb in the middle of?
Yeah, no one's. No one's with me here today. Everyone's coming from their own homes. Ready? All right. So he wanted something on the Bible. I gave him Deuteronomy. I gave him. You can go to Deuteronomy as well, chapter 21. That's something. Or you can also go to Numbers 31:18, and you can go to 1 Samuel's. And the reason why I was mentioning genocide was because if the Bible, the biblical commandment was to kill the people, enslaving them is one notch below that. So it doesn't make sense to talk about morality when you're talking about going into an entire village of Amalekites and destroying and killing the entire population, not leaving even the animals to be alive. There is no such injunction that you will find anywhere in the Quran, and I once again challenge you to find me a single verse or a single hadith to that effect. Now, pardon?
21.
Yeah, no, it's not 21. Get it? Yeah, so now let's quickly talk about what he talked about. The hadiths that he mentioned were false. That the black people on the right and the left. This is not, the word used in that hadith was not black. The word was dark. And this is in the Quran, wujuhum muswadda, that they will have darkened faces. And in fact, ironically, this kind of language is used when men practice something called infanticide. When they kill daughters that are girls, that their faces will be darkened and so on, and there's a reprimand in the Quran for that. It doesn't mean that it's talking about the race. And he talks about 2 black people being the thing for one. How is that the case? When Bilal ibn Rabah was bought by Abu Bakr as-Siddiq for a high price, very, very high price. And then when he was told afterwards, he said, I would have paid even more for him. So this is nonsense what you're talking about. Bilal ibn Rabah, which everyone knows who he is, married Hala bint Auf, who was an Arab, and he became the mu'adhin of the higher echelons of that particular Islamic society. There was no mention of his race in the derogatory way whatsoever. In fact, we have a narration where Bilal was actually abused by Abu Dharr al-Ghifari because he said to him that you're the son of a black woman. The Prophet got angry and he responded by saying, what have you said, and reprimanded him and told him not to say such a thing. So all of what you're doing is distorting and completely decontextualizing that which is correct. You haven't actually had any response for that which I've mentioned, which is that Jesus Christ, who is meant to be inseparable from the body of the Trinity, he is inseparable from the Trinity. He is the one who commanded to genocide and to enslave. You'll find in Numbers 31:18, you'll find in Deuteronomy chapter 21:10, you'll find in First Samuel chapter 15 verse 2, and this, look, you find here, whoever strikes his male or female servant, this is Exodus chapter 21 verse 20, whoever strikes his male or female servant with a staff, and if they have died by his hands, he shall be guilty of a crime, but if he survives for 1 day or two, he shall not be subject to punishment because it is his money.
His
You see, if he beats him so badly that he doesn't survive, he doesn't get any crime because it is his money. This is the heart of objectification, of commodification, of all the things that you're accusing Islam of. You have no answer, my friend, to the emancipatory discourse that we find in Surah Al-Balad chapter number 90, and the fact that freeing slaves was something which is in the zakat, obligatory. Also, you'll find in chapter number 24 verse 33 that it's mentioned mukataba. And mukataba is the idea of somebody comes who is enslaved, and according to one opinion, according to Tafsir al-Qurtubi, that they have to be freed.